because that's what I do, is I share these things.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is that's what they tell me anyway. I was going to share it. Hold on. How come it's not? Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to write this down. Happening now. Okay, right. Here we go. Did you share?
I shared earlier today.
Okay. In that case, welcome. Welcome to The Gear You Hear, everybody. This is the space where we talk about all things music, all things gear, and not just gear from the tech side, but gear from the creative and artistic side and the performance and recording side of things. I am one of your co-hosts, Emiko, and I'm here with Scott the Pedal Guy. And before we begin, a couple of house rules. This is a space where you can ask questions and interact and be inquisitive. So there are no stupid questions, and there are probably no stupid answers. There's some goofy answers, I think, that we would give out, right? But no stupid ones. This is really a place for education and for connection. So we don't talk politics. We don't talk religion. We don't sexually harass. Actually, we don't really harass in general. There's no bullying and there's no trolling, which means that if you are a troll and you're able to set that aside, you are welcome to join us. But if you're not and you write a trolling comment, we will read out your name and bounce you the heck out of here, because this is a one strike you're out zone and you will never be allowed to come back to the kingdom. It's kind of nuts.
You have been warned.
You have been warned, and if you join us regularly, then you know that already. And thank you for. Sorry, I have to adjust I got a lot going on here, Scott. It's like today's been a day. Anyway, so we thought today what would be a fun thing for us to do, because we really hit the ground running when we started this a couple months ago, and we've had some tremendous guests on, and we thought what would be cool is for us to have a show where we are the guests. We interview each other. We talk about our stories and the gear that we use and how we incorporate that into the creative process. Because I think one of the things that people tend to miss a lot is when you're watching a podcast like this, you assume that the host is just a host and you don't really get to know what has inspired them to start a program like this, right? So I think that I don't know, at least for me anyway, I feel like that's a good way to connect further with people, connect with them on a deeper, on a next level, and just kind of get it out there.
I'd like to add you are the hostess with the mostest, so it all works in my book.
Well, thank you. And well, you're not a hostess, but you're a host. You're the host with the most. So thanks for that.
Sure. The other, of course, fun of all of this is that we can be a little more, we can let our hair down just a little bit and have some fun too. So
yeah.
Why not? And of course, this is one where we're really taking kind of a big step forward, because we're actually going to talk about gear, and we actually brought gear, and we're actually going to be able to demo some gear. There's your gear. All right. Awesome. Yeah. And, as this is, of course, the World Series happening right now, we are in Dodger blue here.
Right.
So we are celebrating the boys in blue one way or another. What a game last night. I can't wait for tonight's game. And, they're in Arlington, Texas, and we'll have a little fun with that, I think. So Should be a good day. But anyway, this should be a good session, I think.
I think so.
And I'm really looking forward to talking to you about that vortex you got there, because that doesn't look like a regular vortex. That looks like a special vortex.
It's a special vortex. His name is Carlos.
Carlos is bedazzled there.
Carlos he's a one-of-a-kind custom Alesis Vortex Wireless 2, and he actually is the only one in the world, except he does have a twin sister named Carlotta, who is she's pink and red, and she lives at my studio in Las Vegas. Carlos lives with me. Carlos sort of travels. He's the older twin, right? Older by like a couple minutes, but he's still the older twin.
I got you.
So yeah, so Carlos is my baby. He's one of my babies, but he's the one that everybody knows, I think.
With the gear I show, on
Yeah.
my channel. I don't have time to name them because pretty much by the time they have gone their way through the demo machine back there, they're pretty much already sold or they found new homes. So they're like,
That's good though.
it's like a box full of kittens, you know. Just well, if you know, where
Where's
they're
this
just waiting.
going?
No, they're just waiting there to find a home.
Oh,
Find
okay,
me
okay,
a home.
good.
Find me a home.
Good.
Yes, no,
I'm picturing
nothing
like
obscene.
like Christmas tree wood chipper or something.
Oh, good Lord, no.
Okay, good.
I mean, I'm not a cat person, but I'm not that bad of a person.
That's true. We are self-proclaimed, I think, dog people. But
Yes,
both,
we are.
right? Your wife and you and my partner and I are dog people. But we love cats. We love all animals, right?
And we do have a white albino cat that the neighborhood has pretty much adopted that comes out
Nice.
and frightens me in the morning when I'm walking my doggy at 6 a.m. So yeah, it's just so everybody's always afraid of black cats because they think that's bad luck, and I'm like, no, the white cat's the ones you got to look out for, especially them albino ones. Those are the ones that'll suck your soul out.
They are succubuses. Aren't succubi?
Yeah.
Is that plural?
Succubi. There you go.
I don't know.
We're
Yeah,
also,
okay.
and we're also, I should mention before we dig into this, this is going to be kind of a different. Well, this will be interesting to see how this goes. My wife is a therapist, and she's been home throughout the pandemic. She does a 2 week in, 2 week out sort of schedule. So she is literally on the flip side of this wall, talking to clients. So
She's sucking up your bandwidth.
Nope. I solved that problem.
Oh, good.
I kicked that problem right in the butt.
Okay.
But no, this in this case here though, she's got her therapy clients, and so she's giving people mental therapy. We're giving people retail therapy
and music therapy, yes,
and music therapy. So we have
Absolutely.
a dual therapy session going on here. So
Awesome.
I think it's going to be pretty cool. So
Great.
yeah, the beauty of telecommuting, you know, you can do the therapy over the phone via Skype or however. It's pretty cool stuff now. It's quite inventive. There'll be books written about all of this stuff after it's all over. Just tons and tons of information about people that, you know, developing new coping skills and all that fun stuff. But anyway, I want to get off that subject, but I just thought it'd be kind of interesting because if you hear something in the background, you'll know what it is. Otherwise, other than a dog bark, of course.
Well, I was gonna say, if you hear heavy panting coming from my end, Victoria's at my feet. No, my dog. I have an American Bulldog who she's a heart murmur, and she's also hyperactive. So she just comes and hangs out next to me, and or if you hear panting or snoring, that's Victoria.
All right. Or that'll be somebody in our audience that fell asleep. Yeah. Anyway, let's kick into it. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you went to prep school because you come prepared, and you came prepared with some questions. So
I did. Yeah.
We can do a couple of those, and obviously, I think it would be beneficial to our audience to find out a little bit about both of us, what we actually do, so that we can actually talk the talk and walk the walk, because we're not just we're not empty shirts as far as, like, you know, people that do these shows. We're actually legitimate people that work in the business and have worked in the business for decades. We're not just
pretty faces, ladies and gentlemen. We know.
Well, you're the pretty face. That's why I put you on the thumbnail. So, you know, you don't need to see my mug on the thumbnail.
There you go.
All we do is just dumb poses like. And that's supposed to get people to click on our videos on YouTube. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. I tell you what. I have a question for you.
Go right ahead.
So you are the pedal guy, and the way that I met you was actually through a pedal manufacturer, a pedal designer, Greg Lounsbury from Lounsbury Pedals, of which I'm very proud to be on their artist roster. And when you and I met, it was to do a promo for this for the organ grinder pedal. And what I thought was so cool about you was that you're not just your regular sort of distributor dealer, right? You're not your regular sales person. There's a history with you. There's a story behind why you run things the way that you do, and why you're so committed to interactivity and connection with I'm not going to call them your customer base. I'm going to call them your followers, because they are. You've managed to build this really cool community of people, of not just artists, but of manufacturers, designers, all sorts of people that are in here. So I would love for you to tell everybody the story of how that came to be, because I think it's a really cool one.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a.
Told you I was prepared.
Oh, you were prepared. Check you out. Well, anyway, okay. Well, my career goes back about 25 years now at this point. So I've been doing this for a while. I did a lot of my career has been based mostly in technology. So I've worked for a lot of software manufacturers. I've also worked on the dealer side as well. I was a buyer at a chain store that shall remain nameless. That doesn't really. I've worked at Guitar Center. We can say that.
Sure.
There's no big secret there. If people know my mug, they know where I was at that. I've developed relationships over the years with a lot of these manufacturers, because we are kind of just a small town, really, when it gets down to it. The music industry isn't as big as people might think, especially on the manufacturing side. On the manufacturing side, we're rather compact. So a person might leave a job at one company, but they'll pop up in another company, undoubtedly. And that's where we keep the relationship going. So I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of great support throughout the years. That's enabled me to do what I do. And even when I was between gigs, I was still, writing books for Course Technology. I wrote a book about Reason, if you remember that program, which a lot of people still, bought that book over the years, and it's been an interesting ride for sure. But the pedal guy just kind of came out of an idea of just getting back to my roots, because I was always first and foremost a guitar player. And that was where I wanted to really live, because I really love pedals. I think pedals are like the ultimate video game. There's never a level you can't achieve. You have to just buy a new pedal to get to that level. And in fact, I still have my very first pedal back here, an old Boss Overdrive. And I still have it to this day. It still kind of works. But that just seemed to be kind of an idea. And that's what I liked about it, because to just say I'm going to be an instrument dealer,
Right.
It's just kind of blasé, and it's too the net is too far out. You need to reel it back, and you need to drill down and look at a category as far as what you want to really concentrate on. And so I wanted to initially just concentrate on just pedals, but that's evolved over the time. And now we've, I brought in synthesizers, and I'm evolving even more, because I can say we just started, we're starting up our business with Tascam now, and I'm very, very excited about that. As I said, I did spend a lot of time in technology, so a lot of those technology companies do want to be a part of what I'm doing over here. But I've always believed in really just trying to be a helper and a solution provider. And an educator, which is why I was writing books. I used to teach post-production at film school. Unfortunately, most of those students will probably go on to just doing music videos for the rest of their lives. But nevertheless, that's the thing, is that as far as like growing a dealership, I've got a lot of friends that have dealerships around the country. What I've come to find is that it's just really important to make a connection. So, and just evangelize that and treat people like humans, and not like a chain store might be. I'm not saying all chain stores are like this, but some chain stores can be kind of meat markety, and just like, take one, see you later. But I'd like to actually have a good relationship with the customer base. So I work exceptionally hard at that, and but it pays off. And this year has been a big concentration on YouTube. So growing that brand out there, trying to get to that magical 10,000 subscribers, and we're less than 500 away now.
Everybody go subscribe.
So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel for the Pedal Guy, I'd ask you, please go do that.
Go do it. You won't regret it. It's really good. But
essentially, that's kind of an abbreviated thing. And I went and got my MBA a few years ago, and I just decided, look, I got to put some pen to paper, and I got to figure out a way to make my mark on the industry rather than working for other people. I decided to work for myself, which, as you know, because you work for yourself, it's a very scary proposition. And because, how am I going to pay the rent next month? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to keep my lights on and my doors open? A lot of that it takes a lot of bravery, I suppose, and insight into and confidence in yourself. And I know you're an artist, you play on stage and you do your thing. And I know that it takes a lot of cojones to do that. But also the thing that I think that's really awesome about you is that you're an entrepreneur on top of all of that. One of the things that I've always said about a lot of the artists I've encountered over the years is that they're amazing musicians, but many of them are and this could be visual arts or audible arts, it doesn't matter. They can be the worst self-promoters in the world. And so they wonder why they're not succeeding. Well, why did 2 dimes and a nickel make a quarter? You have to get out there and you got to strut your stuff and you have to be shameless.
Right.
And if you're not ready to do that, then you're going to have a real tough time.
Yeah.
Not everybody can be a Tom Petty, not everybody can be not everybody can be an Andy Warhol. You've got to really get out there and flaunt it, and you got to be shameless.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like self-promoters are always the ones that win the game. But of course, that I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But in any case, I mean, while we do this, let's do this on the flip side. Give us a little bit of background on you, where you started in New York, obviously, and then migrate your way out here.
I did. I spent, I was actually born in Washington, DC. That's something very few people know about me. I was born in Washington, DC. And I split my time between DC and New York and Japan because I'm half Japanese. And I did go to school in Japan. So when people go, "Are you fluent?" The answer is yes, I'm fluent. Yes, I do all that. But I started performing classical music as a child. And then I don't like the word retired from it, but that's basically what it is. By the time I was, I don't know, 11, maybe 12, maybe something like that. And by the time I was like 14, 15, I was touring. I was on the road. I had a band. And then I was at that point, I was going back and forth to New York. And then I was in New York full time after that. And then I came out to LA about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now. And now I'm here, and I'm very blessed because I've been doing music. I mean, I've been doing music my whole life anyway, but since I've come to LA, I've been able to. I now opened a recording studio. I have a film production company. I have a media company. I have all these things that are connected to music. And it's interesting because they all stem from this one thing, which is exactly what you were talking about, this idea of self-promotion. And it's funny because when I was in New York, I was out there, we were touring a lot. And some of that was because we really couldn't afford to live in New York City. And so the idea was if you go out and you're on the road, your expenses are covered, your fee is doubled because they're like, "Oh, so-and-so from New York. And so they must be great and we'll pay them more money." And it's like, great, fabulous. But what ended up happening was people started asking me for advice, right? Like, "Hey, Emiko, how did you get that gig? Or how did you get that endorsement? How did you get partnered with these people?" And I just started taking phone calls, giving people advice, whatever, answering emails. And one day a girlfriend of mine said to me, she goes, "Why are you not charging people for this information?" And I went, "Huh? What?" And she said, this is a consultancy. You need to charge people money for this. This is your knowledge. Like, it's worth something. Because I would give them advice. They would go out and land something of their own, come back and call me and say, "Hey, I got the thing. Thank you so much. It worked." She goes, "You need to be charging people money." And so my first little company was born out of that. Whereas I always said, like, I'm against animal testing, but I use the term, like, I was my own guinea pig. And I think that was a big, just like you play guitar and demonstrate the pedals in your pedal guide videos, right? It's like you're speaking about it, you know about it. You're not just reading off of a sheet. So I think it's much more effective and it's much more authentic. Like if you're taking the risk, if you're actually doing the action, then not. And so by the time I came out here, people were calling me for all sorts of weird stuff that I never thought I would be doing. Film scores, producing, playing guitar for major artists, like stuff that's very, like my agent would be like, yeah, they're requesting Carlos. That's my, my guitar. And I'd be like, well, do they just want Carlos? Like, do they want him as a prop, or do they want Emiko and Carlos? And no, they want you to play Carlos. Oh, okay. So, but it's just interesting because the way that I forged my career path was through that very thing, was through this promotion, that all I was trying to do was just get more tours. And it ended up branching out into this whole being of it, of its own kind. And now I'm sort of in the middle of it, just going, okay, yes, thank you. This is great,
That's good.
And now we have our show. Right now we have
That's
our bi-weekly show that we do, where we can talk about all this. So
we have so much. Yeah, I mean, this is so far the show's been, it's been awesome. So doing this has been fantastic. It's honestly given me the inspiration to do, start looking towards what I may do as a weekly thing for Pedal Guy, because I've always wanted to do more questions and answer sessions with the questions I get over the course of the week. And I thought it might be a little more interesting. But again, at the same time, I just don't want to be a guy who's like sitting there with a vapor, just like taking long drags of the vape and looking at their screen and all that. I just want to make it a little more interactive, a little more fun. So that should be, somewhere down the road. But in any case, you've frozen a little bit on our side there. So I'll wait for the video to catch up.
Am I back?
The audio is coming. Oh, there you are. Hi there. Hi.
Hi.
That's good. Are you on Wi-Fi today, or are you on a hardwire? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back at the house in LA. I'm back at the house in LA, and it's Wi-Fi here. But it does that every so often, and then it levels out.
Well, thankfully, your house is, still there, because your house was remarkably close to the fires. So saluting our firefighters here in Los Angeles thank you for everything you do.
Yes, absolutely.
So okay, so we're going to wait for the video to catch up. There you are. Hi there. And also hi to Yeeson Waldo there. I see you just popped in a little bit there and said hello. How you doing?
Hello. Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by. Anyway, I felt like this would be a good opportunity maybe to segue into your rig there, because I think people would find that really interesting as far as what you're working with there with Carlos and with the mic, the whole setup you've got going on there. So I'll just stop rambling here and let you do your thing.
So I'm really proud that my entire studio is built off of artist and brand partnerships that I have. And in that respect, there's a lot of people that send me hate mail because they want to have a studio like I have, because they want the partnerships, right? Which is I take that as a compliment.
Haters to the left.
Well, no, I mean, if you take time out of your day to tell me that you really hate me because I have all these things, and I'm just thinking, well, thank you for taking the time to do your research. I really appreciate that. You can never have that time back in your life, so thank you for that. But I'm really I'm really grateful for my rig. I love my rig. My rig is pretty wild. Behind me, you can't see it, but it's back there. I have a Hammond SK1, which is like my main keyboard. I actually have a Hammond M downstairs, and then we have an A100 at the studio. So we are, and then I have a Hammond in Las Vegas. So we are and an SK1 at the studio. We are a 5 Hammond family. Excellent. That's a lot of Hammonds. There's like one for every day of the work week. And I'm brilliantly proud to be on their roster and be representing them. And then I have my mirror image. My VX49, my Alesis controller, which I love, and I have a VI61 in Vegas as well. And this, I'll tell you, the 49 is a brilliant controller, in my personal opinion, not just because I endorse Alesis, but because I was using it prior.
Mhm.
Well, I was using the VI series prior, I should say. And I also have, when I was traveling, because, I was traveling like every week,
Yes.
my V Mini. And I would literally be in midair, and I would get a message from my publisher, and he'd say, "Hey, we farmed you out to do this TV show, and here's some briefs, and they need samples like by 7:00 tonight." And I was like, "Well, I'm over the Rocky Mountains right now," and I would literally pull out the V Mini, plop it on this tiny little airplane table, right? Pull out my laptop and go to work. And I can't tell you how many times Alesis has literally saved my butt on a gig because of that. And then of course, Carlos, my dear Keytar, and his sister Carlotta. And Carlos has been with me for, gosh, I don't know how many years now, but he's really reliable. He's really reliable.
That's good.
And I tell you, the thing about Carlos that I love is I hook him up to this is something that not a lot of people do. I hook him up to my MXR, to my talk box. And so the thing that people don't realize is, yes, you can hook up a wireless MIDI controller to a talk box. It takes a minute, and there is a sort of a jerry-rigged daisy-chained thing that you have to do, but you can do it. And I've been meaning to make a video about it forever, because there's all of these videos on how to hook up your talk boxes for certain things, but you can perform with it, but you can't record with it. And I found the way to record with it. So I just have to have a minute to make that video, I think.
The secret sauce.
Kinda. Yeah, and then what else can I show you that I have? Oh, two.
Let's take a step back.
Sure.
Just real quick. So for those of our viewers out there that are still kind of new, because the way I promoted this video on the YouTube channel was that this was going to be like a Vortex sort of not demo really, but just just talk about it a little bit as far as how it's being used in your setup. It's being used as a controller. Because it doesn't actually have sounds in it, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Carlos only has soul. He doesn't have sounds.
Right. So that's a really important thing to point out, because a lot of the things you're just showing were controllers, and the thing is that your secret is that you're using it with software synthesizers.
I do a lot of sound design, and I will start with specifics. And what's interesting for me is I only use Carlos for certain sounds. I'll use Carlotta for other sounds. I don't know why, because really, if you think about it, it is just I'm sorry, Carlos. It's just a controller. So I could be using the VX49, right? I could be. But I talked about this yesterday in a podcast, actually, about how, no, it was in an interview. I lied. When sometimes people will specifically request me on a track, and they'll say, well, can you play guitar? And I'll be like, yeah, but I could just do it. No, but because it affects the performance.
It does. It absolutely does.
How you deliver it. And so in that respect, that's why I say Carlos has soul, but he doesn't have sounds. And he really effectively only works with certain sounds. And I don't mean all Alesis Vortexes work that way. I just mean Carlos specifically. I'm sure you can get one from Sweetwater that works great with all sounds. But for me, that's the unique thing for me.
Don't buy it from Sweetwater. Buy it from us.
Do you have one?
We can get them. We can certainly get them. It's never been a problem. We're actually in discussions with InMusic for more of their products now, because as people who follow me know that I'm a big old Headrush user.
Right.
I love the Headrush family, and that's part of the InMusic family. If those of you are living in a cave. So that means I have access to Alesis, Newmark, Akai, all that stuff. It's just that frankly, again, it's about expanding it out. But I want to go back to that one thing you were just talking about. So because I'm just gonna go off the ledge here a little bit and make a theory, is that it's because you're standing with the instrument and you're attacking the instrument like a guitar, like a different type of instrument altogether, even though it is a keyboard. And while you could, yes, do it on a keyboard that's on a stand,
Right.
the feeling you take to it is totally different. It's like I saw something with Katie Tunstall talking about the same exact thing about how she gets her loops going live on stage, is that she actually incorporates a little bit of actual body movement.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because you're getting into that groove, you're getting into the pocket of the groove.
Right.
And you're going to approach it differently as a result of that.
Well, the other thing that that the Vortex has that's different from any other controller, even the Alesis controllers themselves, right? Even just the linear, like the traditional controllers, is the pitch bend. Mm-hmm. And yes, the 49 has a pitch bend and a mod wheel on it, but it feels different. Right.
Yeah,
and this also has a tilt shift on it. So if I turn it on and I hit the tilt shift button, what ends up happening is you'll see, like in a lot of my videos, if I'm standing up, I'll sort of be swaying the guitar up and down like this, and it actually changes the wave.
There you go.
And so in that sense, I think performing and recording on the guitar adds literally different dimensions, because you're not just playing right keyboard across. Now you have to play this way, which means you're going up and down, but with the tilt shift, you're also controlling forward and backwards, side to side, front to back, right? Like up and down. So now you're incorporating a whole sphere in terms of your sonic delivery.
Why don't you hold that up to the camera real close so people can see the work you did on Carlos here, because it's something else, really. Look at that. I mean, that is sexy.
And I've had so many people ask me where they could get one, and I always tell them, no, you can't. And I've had people, I can't tell you how many DMs that I got from people saying, can you make me one like that? And
your response is
no. My response is always to forward it to my reps and my team at Alesis and say, hey, so I know we started talking about making the Emiko guitar, right? Because people want it. So let's push that conversation forward a little bit.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we did it, we've been talking about it for a while. And if we did it, you know, it wouldn't be a Carlos. It would be something else, because Carlos is very special to me. But it would be similar potentially, and there would be some options. So we've been, you know, I mean, COVID has, I think, slowed down a lot of those types of discussions. But
it has.
It has been on the table for a while. So
it's been a difficult one, hasn't it? Because I can at least speak from the retail side that it has been difficult in getting consistent inventory overseas to meet demand, because demand has gone up just unbelievably this whole year as far as the pedal guy goes. I mean, when you're on a first name basis with your post office, it's pretty funny.
Right.
And with the guys that work at the FedEx offices, I know this is not the sexy part of the music industry, guys, but this is how the sausage is made. So you gotta, again, it's all about service, because you know, guys gonna choose. How is a person gonna choose you over another dealer? It's how fast you react, and how fast you get things done. So it all plays into the role there. But anyway, okay, enough of that. But the thing that has been a challenge all year long is getting consistent supply. And also, of course, the fact that people are working from home and they don't exactly have the time for the innovations that are needed for this year. So we'll probably be off by a year. So I'd say 2021 and 2022 are going to be pretty freaking awesome, because all those ideas that have been kind of sitting back in the back of the closet, now they'll have time to actually get back in and do it. So that'll be interesting. In fact, I just got word yesterday that they've officially pushed out, not that this is a huge surprise, but they've officially pushed out Synthplex to next year at this time. So you never know, at this time next year, we might be broadcasting from Synthplex, because it's going to happen about this time, in fact, next year.
I would love that.
Which should be fun. I had a whole booth planned. It was going to be the booth from heaven.
Nice.
Other manufacturers wish they could have a booth this awesome, and yeah, we had to put it on hold, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I even had a couple of people that were going to come and work because the guy from Depeche Mode will be walking around.
Nice.
So it's your chance to see Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. Don't you want to see him as he's being pushed right by you down the hallway?
Right. Right. I breathed the same air that he breathed for like 2 seconds.
Which is funny right now. It's like it's COVID. It's like I don't want to breathe anybody's air.
I got COVID from Depeche Mode. It's fancy COVID.
That's a freaking T-shirt if I ever heard one. So anyway, let's do this. Let's talk more about the now the synth setup you've got going on there. So you're doing everything in Logic. And you're doing it with soft synths, and I'm hoping somewhere down the road we'll be able to actually do multicam, so we'll be able to actually show people screenshots of what's going on at the same time. So we'll have to just use our imagination, boys and girls. What soft synths are you using in Logic?
So at the moment, it depends on what I'm doing, but I'll usually start with something innocuous, like just a regular standard synth lead. Mm-hmm. The key is polyphonic or not, depending on what I want to do, because sometimes you need it and sometimes you don't. It depends. But what I will do is, it's not enough for me, I don't like ever having the same sound, the same patch, as keyboard players like to say. I like to change it up. So even if I do multiple recordings and multiple performances of the same song, people will say, sounds different. And I know, because I changed it. But I remember everything I remember everything I do. I have it all written down. I have it all mapped out. So typically it'll go through a super overdrive of some sort. It'll go through, or a fuzz, because I really like that. I will always put a flanger or a chorus on it, sometimes both. Ring modulators are a big deal for me. Big deal. I love playing with ring modulation patterns. And then depending on what it is, a shit ton of delay. Yeah. And of course, I think when you're designing sounds, you can play with waveforms. So that also makes things very bizarre. Sometimes they do cross the line into being bizarre, and you just go, oh, dial it back a little bit there.
Sure.
But it's an interesting opportunity, because I'll play with the quote unquote the virtual pedal board in the DAW, but I also have this ginormous thing here, which is a lot heavier than it looks. It's not as impressive as a guitarist's pedal board necessarily, and I've got a couple pedals that are downstairs, but these are generally my go-tos. And I do use the pedals in terms of when I print to audio, I'll design things over it, or I'll use them for vocal processing.
Yeah, that's a good way to go too.
So like Lounsbury has this and the Tall, Fat, and Wide, and I'll use this, run it with the microphone.
That's one of the things a lot of people don't know about the Lounsburys, is that technically they're all preamps.
Right.
If you get Greg talking about it, he'll talk about it quite a bit. But it actually works quite well as the Tall and Fat actually works quite well as a mic pre.
Yeah.
So it would definitely go up against most of the other ones that I've used over the years in my career.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your go-to? What's the go-to soft synth? Like the first one you reach, if you're gonna say, I need a patch like right now. Like, what would be the one that? What's your desert island?
If I I can't even say it with a straight face. If I said Ice Rain MIDI number 96, no, I'm just kidding. That's so 80s. No. I'm pulling up Logic right now. I have a lead.
Because I'm gonna get you to play. I'm gonna get you to play a couple notes for us.
Okay.
Because we got technology working today, so let's use it.
We do. Okay, so I'll either go for something that's a stacked synth, that sounds like a very poor representation of a guitar. Mm-hmm. I will either do that because I'll start there and then make it something else so that it blends oftentimes with what my guitar player is doing.
Right.
Or I'll go straight up synth. Like right now, I have something called a sweeping lead, which I don't know what I've done.
It's been a tick since I've used Logic. So is there actually is there a model number of that?
No,
what that is, or
it just says sweeping lead, and then I would literally go in, and so it sounds. Can you guys hear that?
Oh, I can hear it.
So that's what it sounds like on its own with nothing, right? But then if I were to, I don't know, if I were to, I don't have it hooked. And then I would literally start running it through all the pedals, which are not hooked up because all my power's over behind me, and I don't have an extension cord. Yeah. So that's, I mean, leads that cut. The other thing is I really enjoy, I've been told that I enjoy sounds that are obnoxious.
Well, and synthesizers in general can be obnoxious by default at times. But the thing is that how to use it tastefully, how do you make it work in the mix?
Right. I think I do enjoy things that cut a lot.
Sure.
That aren't.
It's your voice.
It's right. It's my voice, and as a keyboard player.
What? We lost you there. We lost you. I hear a little bit coming there.
Did I go away?
Okay, I can hear your voice. There you are.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back. Back.
Okay. So my thing has been always fighting with the guitar player, because I think
we do like to fight. That's it does come into play.
Well, I was 14 when I started touring, and so I had a group of, my band was literally older men, and so they did have this attitude of like, this one goes to 11, but this one goes to 35. So I always found that there was a deficit in terms of like, we would get the video back or whatever, the audio or the board recording, and it's like, man, all I hear is the guitar. I don't hear anything. And he'd be, oh no, the keyboards are there. You're just not listening the right way. And it's like, no, I don't think that's what happened, because you get louder and louder as you go. So I learned early on, you got to find stuff that cuts and that puts people in their place and that claims your space, right? You're planting a flag in that sense.
Sure.
And that works, that harmonically works. And I think that where the frequencies don't kill each other, right? They don't cancel each other out. They don't muddy together, but they work to elevate each other properly. And that's something that I'm painfully aware of as well. And in terms of designing sounds, that's something that I love to tinker with.
I admittedly, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do sound design lately. Even when I'm working with the guitars, most of the time I'm just cranking out demos. It takes more time just to get what's actually in them, in these processors in my thumbs before I do a demo. I totally get where you're coming from with the sounds. You have the reverse Genesis problem, or your band's had the reverse Genesis problems where because there were so many complaints after the remasters came out a couple of years ago that they buried the guitars all the way in the back, and they brought Tony Banks's keyboards like all the way up to the front. And I'm like, well, you do know Genesis isn't exactly known for being a guitar band lately. I mean, yes, back in the 70s, sure, Steve Hackett did his thing, but I mean, let's face it, nobody goes and listens to Invisible Touch and goes, man, that guitar sounds great.
Awesome. Yeah.
They're listening to the keyboard parts.
Right.
So eat that. Anyway, I totally get where you're coming from. What I'm hoping for, frankly, is that NUX is going to eventually do something for keyboards for this particular product, for the MG 300, because it isn't exactly tuned for bass or for keys yet, but it's all digital, so it's only a matter of time before they get the itch to do it, because so far this product has actually done remarkably well. And it's actually been one of the most popular products on the Pedal Guy YouTube channel, frankly. So,
but there's nothing that says, like, I was watching that and I was looking at it and I thought, I could hook that up to my Hammond.
You could do it. You could do it, but it's like the problem with that's solved with the Lounsbury pedals, because the Lounsbury pedals are tuned for keyboards.
Right.
They're tuned for the entire frequency spectrum. So you don't get the mid-range that you would get from like using just like a standard overdrive, like a Tube Screamer or something.
Right. Yeah.
You get a totally, and so that's kind of the same thing here. That's not to say it can't be done. It can certainly be done, but they need to put more impulse responses and key and amps that really are kind of tuned for other things, other than just guitar. Otherwise, it's doesn't make any sense. However, I mean, it could be done. There's always ways to do it. But the cool thing about this, and I think that what's great about this particular product is that it does reamping at $150, which it's been amazing. I mean, one of the things that's been really cool about this evolution of technology is that in the beginning, back in the 90s, and I'm not kidding, this is 90s, people, we were talking about impulse responses back in the 90s. Right. But back then it was called acoustic stamping. And I thought, this is the future. This is going to be the hottest thing ever. And nobody got it. Like not a one person got it, no matter how much we talked about it. And the same thing goes for reamping. We were talking about all that crap back then because reamping actually goes back to the 70s. Right. But doing it in a digital environment was very, it was pretty unheard of, aside from a few other things that Line 6 was doing. So it kind of laid dormant for a while along with IRs. And then all of a sudden, in these last couple of years, impulse responses have just been blown up because people realized, I don't have to schlep around a big giant cabinet anymore. I could just use an impulse response. Right. And it opened people's minds up. And that's the beauty of it. And this thing does it for $150. And it's not a piece of garbage either. It really isn't, as far as what you get out of it. The amp modeling inside of it is pretty damn good, frankly. Yeah. But I will say to one of the points you made earlier about delays, is that I love me some delay. If you've seen any of my videos, I love delay. However, I also live in the real world for guitar players that too much delay is not really a good thing, especially with some of the patches in here, that there's so much delay in it that it's like, if you were to play that with a band, even the Edge would come out and say, you're using too much delay, mate. I can't do an Irish accent, so sorry, I can't do it. But even the Edge would come out and tell you you're using too much delay. And if he's telling you you're using too much delay, you're using too much delay. Right. So dial that shit back already. Yeah. But in any case, why don't you play a couple of licks real quick on the guitar there, and maybe I'll plug in a guitar here so we can you guys can get a listen to what this thing sounds like. So what are you using right now?
I don't understand your question.
You're still using the same patch you're using before.
Oh yeah, it's just on here. I mean, I can switch it here. I'll switch it up. Hold on. I can switch it up because it's easy to switch it up. It was easy a second ago. Hold on.
Are you working on new jingles?
What was the one everybody hates it? Bum 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 bum. There you go. E minor. Or we could go with D minor, the saddest of all keys.
Yes. Boy, Christopher Guest is probably never going to live that down as long as he lives.
Truth. I'm not going to do anything to...
You mean Spinal Tap isn't a real band?
Sadness.
I saw them actually play.
Did you?
Yeah, they played it. They played at NAMM one year. They did an after NAMM show.
Oh, that's right.
For sure. I still even have the T-shirt around somewhere.
That's right. Hold on.
I also have my guitar here too. So let's see.
And I will say this, just so people know, anybody that thinks that guitar players are the only ones that noodle, I can tell you how many times I've been on a phone call, literally sitting just like this, and on speakerphone, and I just start. Guitar players have noodle-itis just as much as guitar players do. We do. It's so bad. But I don't do it when I'm sitting at the keyboard. That's what's so weird. I don't know.
It's all about if it's vertical, you can noodle. If it's horizontal, you can't.
This is really made for standing up, but I don't want to stand up right now.
So what are you doing right there with the bar on the left to explain to our viewers if they're kind of
This bar?
yeah.
This is an expression bar. So the expression bar, hold on. So also, just so you know, it's got these, which way am I going? I'm going this way. Draw. You can't see them because they're all glittery, but there's these drawbars here. They're, as a girlfriend of mine would call them jokingly, slidey bar things. That's our studio term, slidey bar things. Faders. And they also give you some effects controls remotely, which is great. So like if you're using MainStage or whatever, you can go through and you have drum, like you've got patch pads here as well. So so this is the expression bar, which typically works better. I might change it back to synth because you can hear it more. I'll just do that.
All right.
La, 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 la. Yeah, you give us some stuff now. Fancy man.
Hopefully that's in tune. Well, you know, I got to tell you, one of the things about doing videos for full time for YouTube is always one of the most. It's always one of the most difficult things is getting over yourself and just like getting past the stage fright and all that. Because I don't play live really anymore.
You should.
Well, I'd like to, but I just don't have any bloody time. Sorry, I had to throw in an Englishism in there, and I just don't have any time to play live anymore. I'm so busy doing what I do now. Just getting those Trio Tuesdays done was a hell of a thing. And I've got this whole plan for doing live performances with the Looper board in a very near future from the Loft, which will be fun because you can sync it up with the other headrush now. So, synced up effects. It's going to be beautiful. So the other thing too is, and this is I was a victim of working at the chain store I mentioned before when you're working in management. There are so many talented musicians that work there that now are like all about the business, but when they do let loose and they start noodling, I'm scared to death to play anything around them because frankly a lot of those guys could play circles around me. But then you kind of just realize, well, I'm just trying to show the product. I'm not trying to make people think I'm like some sort of Steve Vai or Satriani because that's definitely not what I am, and nor should I be. So yeah, you just kind of get over it and move on.
Yeah.
So there. Besides, people don't care. They just want to hear, like, what does it sound like with power chords? Well,
exactly.
Hopefully in tune, though. But yeah. Oops.
It's not the worst thing in the world. I live near a chain store.
I think we got you again there. We have the Wi-Fi gnomes. You coming back yet? Hello.
Am I back?
You're back.
I just noodled for like the 20 seconds I was out. I just went, that's cool, whatever. So the expression bar.
Yeah.
That's you were.
I think we lost you again. In the meantime, let me just do a couple quick shout out here while Miko's Wi-Fi is catching up here. Dean, great to have you. Giles, what's going on? Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll be doing more of this. Oh, I see your eyes. Okay, what? I see your hand moving. All right, you're back. Giles is saying he needs an opinion on a musical instrument. Giles, okay, what's the opinion you need? Because one of us is going to have the answer, I hope. Well, we'll wait for it to come back. But in the meantime, what you were noodling.
I was noodling. The expression bar changes. Oh, here it is. Hold on. So it adds a lot of I don't want to get too technical with it because people tend to, I think, zone out after that. But it adds extra panache, I think, especially with sustained notes is a good place to use it. And it just changes, right? But then if you put it on with the tilt shift, see?
I was going to call that that's the Rick Ocasek effect.
I'll take it.
It sounds like it belongs in a Cars tune.
I'm okay with that. That's fine.
Awesome. So Giles wrote his question here. So he's asking you what you think about the Rollei Seaboard.
I think it's brilliant. I love it. It's awesome.
And what's so awesome about it?
Well, it's not like anything. I don't think it's anything like anything out there on the market. I think what you can do with it expressively is, I wouldn't say different is the wrong word because everybody says different, but there's a lot more you can do with it than a traditional keyboard. I also think that if you use it as a supplement or as an addition to what you already have, you can get more mileage out of it, as opposed to like, I have a Rollei and that's all I use. And I mean, you're not Jordan Rudess. Sorry. None of us are.
There is only one Jordan.
There's only one Jordan. It's true. And there's a lot of Jordan there to love. So yeah, but I would say, why, Giles, are you looking to invest in one, or is this just some sort of question that you're curious about because you saw an ad somewhere? I'm just asking. So this
is the one that's got that rubberized the rubberized keys, right?
Yeah, it's all black.
Right. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a chance to goof around with those. I've seen them for the last couple of years.
I need to hire you guys to create 10 seconds of music for my channels. Okay, well, Giles, why don't you send a DM and we can talk about that. That's easy enough to do. Looking to buy one. You should get one. It's worth. I think it's totally worth getting. Absolutely.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I hit the top. I hit the tuning bridges a little too much there on the light stand over here, so it's gone out of tune. Which I just can't stand playing an out of tune guitar. It's one of the nice things about keyboards. You don't have to worry about it going out of tune because this is in the 70s.
Wrong.
So
that's not. Hammonds tend to decay and bend over every once in a while, depending on their age.
Right. Now we're back.
Better? There you go.
Oh boy.
Nice. So one thing that's cool about you is you incorporate the music into your videos. I'm gonna switcheroo and ask you a question now. How long does it take you to learn? Like, so you get the pedals in, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, and you pump these videos out weekly. Like, they're incredible production value and musical value and information value. But how long does it take you to learn the pedal? Like, if it's something that, say, you haven't used before, right? Obviously.
It's a good question. The short answer is pretty much a day to do the whole thing from start to finish.
A day is what, 8 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours?
A couple hours. I mean, and I'm not saying it because I've been doing this for a really long time, but I've been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah.
So when I use when I've been using overdrives and distortions since like the dawn of time, when I use another distortion or overdrive, I have to find a way to talk about it differently than the other ones. And so what I really concentrate on more is I concentrate more on my playing on those particular pedals more than I actually concentrate on the facts about the pedal, because, hey, it's a distortion pedal and it's red.
Right.
it's like that's not the right way to approach it.
Yeah.
The right way to approach it is playing that actually complements what that product does. For example, sorry, this morning I launched a video on the Plexi Crunch from NUX, which is part of the reissue series, and it's a Plexi amp. Now, how would I play a Plexi amp? I'm not going to play it the same way I play, say, a Dumble, which is the other pedal that they make, the Steel Singer. It has the same exact controls almost, but I'm not going to play it exactly the same way. You've got to like work the chords out. Yeah. And you got to play something that's a lot different. And that's where the real challenge is. It's like just coming up with, let's see, do I have my guitars back up?
Yeah.
Yep. I think I lost the connection. That's what happened. Don't worry. As I said earlier, I Frankenstein this thing together. Hey, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now let's bring that back a little bit. Okay. So let's see. This is the Emotional Ballad. I don't like the way that one sounds. Let me find another one here. Okay, so the Steve Vai one here, because this is a Steve Vai preset. So I'm not sure which amp it's using, but if you're going to play something like, speed metal type of, something like that, obviously a delay is not going to work. So you've got to find like the thing that's going to do it. Like, first of all, you want to kill the delay. You want to kill the delay altogether.
Right.
You don't want that. And if you want reverb, it's typically not the best way to do it. So you got to like hone the sound out a little bit and then work on the chords you want to play.
Right.
Because I play almost the same chords on every one of the videos I do, really, because I've got like my go-to things that I do. But
really?
It's just in different styles. So
it's interesting because, but when you watch your videos, though, they're different enough that you don't think of, like, it's not obvious, right? You don't think about it that way, because I think you make them very unique.
Well, I try to do something a little different to just let people know, hey, look, this is what you can do. Because I try to think of the pedals as instruments into themselves. They have complete expression, and that's the thing. It's like you've got to find a way to express it. So, like I said before, like using the Plexi Crunch, I concentrate more on the tonality of it and how you can use volume swells to really affect the way that it works. Because what'll happen is people will buy it and they'll think, well, if I stick this into my Plexi amp, how is a Plexi pedal going to sound against a Plexi amp? Well, okay, this is how it will sound.
Right.
But make sure that you're doing what needs to be done as far as like the tone control and the volume control. But then again, the other thing, and we've talked about this before, is it's here. Right. And it's here, and it's here. You can have the exact same setup that I have here, and you'll come out with probably a different result than I will.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I think people sometimes forget about, that when they're buying these products, because they think I'm going to sound just like Eddie Van Halen. Rest in peace, Eddie. Or I'm going to sound like Steve Vai, or I'm going to sound like Slash or something. It's like there's really only, like you said, to your point, there's only one Jordan. There's only one Eddie. There's only one Stevie. There's only one Satch. So you've got to find your own voice, and that's what the pedals are there for. They're tools to help you make that happen. But find your own voice. Don't just do it just because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
And you'll get there. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, all the videos, really, most of them only take a couple of hours, honestly. Now with the MG300, it's a little more complicated because there's so much to talk about. So here's one of the secrets of the trade. As far as video production goes, you have to write a list. You have to list everything out, and you have to think about everything you're going to talk about. So do we do a video about this? Do we do a video about that? Like if you go back to the beginning of Pedal Guy, you'll see that there's some videos that are like 30 minutes long. And frankly, the fact that I got anybody to pay attention for more than 10 minutes is crazy. It's impossible. So you've got to bring it down into easily digestible chunks.
Yeah.
And so one week I'll talk about reamping. The next week I'll talk, like this week I'm going to do another video on the MG300. It's probably the last one I'll do for a while. I'm going to talk about how to use it as an audio interface.
Right.
And that's 3 to 5 minutes all by itself.
Right.
And that's the thing. Just you have to plan it out. Otherwise, you'll be sitting here all day long trying to figure it out. And it just cuts down on productivity. But then you've got to dump it into an editing computer. And I use Magix as my editor. It's the one that works. It is the Final Cut Pro for PC. I don't care what any other PC editor uses. This is what I use, and I love.
It works for you, and your videos look great. So I mean, you know, I think, and that's the other thing I would say about pedals. And after that, we'll answer Dean's question. But you know, so many people, I think you and I both have been through this. I've been through it being a guitar player for sure, where people will, I think, kind of come out and make fun of you, or they'll judge you on the basis of what your rig is, what your pedal board looks like, what you have on there. But you know, it's like, oh, cool, you play guitar, you're bringing it back. And my answer is, yo, man, it never left. Like maybe your cool factor went to sleep for a couple of years, but I'm here to tell you, I mean, because synth has always been around in every style of music. This is the thing. Synth is one thing that has transcended every genre of music,
right?
Including.
Oh, we lost you there again. She's gone into the Wi-Fi phantom zone. Oh, what? There she is. Are you back? Nope. Okay, we got you in another freeze frame where you're like this now. So we'll wait for you to. Oh, there you are. Have you come back yet, or are you still catching up there? Well, I think she's still catching up. Oh, hi there.
Am I back?
You are back, yes.
Okay, let's answer Dean's question.
Let's answer Dean's question, yes. That would be a good idea. Oh, I guess we can't quite just yet.
I can answer it. Is the wireless MIDI? Is it? Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
Yes, wireless MIDI is built into. So.
Ah, shit. Okay, I think we lost you again. Sorry, everybody. Technology. What sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back. Are you back with us yet?
I'm back. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, hi.
Okay. Wireless MIDI is built in, and Alesis uses, I think, the same as everybody else, 2.4 gigs. That's their frequency.
Right. Yeah, we do the same thing with some of the new wireless stuff that's coming out for guitar as well, like the Newix, the B5RC is all 2.4 gigahertz.
Yeah. And this has a really long range as well, and it's plug and play. That's the other thing, for whatever it's worth. This wasn't meant to be a commercial for Alesis, but I'm a walking commercial for Alesis. It's plug and play, and as Scott saw, like this morning, it comes with a USB stick, and I literally just pop it into the back of my computer, open my DAW, and it's there. Like there's no drivers, there's no sync it, there's no enter a code. It's just plug and play, done. Now, if you lose that key, you're screwed though, because each USB key is assigned to each Vortex. So you can't go and get a replacement key and then just have it be for any, right? Like, cause I have 3 Vortexes, and you can't take I can't use Carlotta's key for Carlos. They're not interchangeable. Or they weren't the last time I lost mine. They weren't. Maybe they've switched that around, but I've literally not. So like my iLox and my USB Vortex keys they all reside in one very particular place because I don't want to lose them.
So not to put too fine a point on it, keep it under lock and key.
Key, exactly. There you go. Yes. So yeah. So yeah. They're getting punchy, I think. But what I was trying to say, apparently, before I was thrown into Wi-Fi purgatory, was that I think, the pedals, anything that you play musically, no matter what level you are, no matter what genre you're in, it's all about expressing yourself. And for people that judge you, like Scott and I go back and forth, and we'll occasionally trade insults on certain, not brands, but certain products or components, just sort of like just in good nature, right? But the truth is that if we ever met somebody that used one of those products, we would not speak down to them. I think what would happen is we would maybe inquire why they chose that particular piece, and if it works for them, that's great, and we would support that. But if we saw there were some missing links there, maybe we could. educate and recommend something, right? Another additional choice or something. But this is not about judging people. Like, judging people is not cool. It's not makes you cool at all.
Not in the least.
And I think that's something that he and I, like, we really get along on, is the idea that we can have my little delay pedal is probably as old as the first Model T. Maybe not quite, but
I remember that. I remember that one.
This is all, like, she gets Social Security payments in the mail. Very old, but she works, and people look at it, they're like, oh, and I've got people that go, why are you using that one? That's so old. And then I've got people that go, wow, that's so cool. I haven't seen one of those in years. And so, right. But it works for me.
Well, who's the artist I'm thinking of right now? Lindsey Buckingham, because everybody's talking so much about Fleetwood Mac these days, thanks to that TikTok video. Lindsey still, maybe it's changed in the last couple of years, but up until just a couple of years ago, he was still using ADATs because he just refused to use any sort of DAW. It was not a DAW guy, and it's because he was able to make it work for him. Right. And maybe that thing's as old as dirt. Yeah. If you're on this cast, you've never seen an ADAT before, well, you're not missing much. But still, go have a look at it just for historical sake. Remember, I still have a BRC lying around here somewhere for synchronization. Nice. Oh, we'll have to do something on Sync one of these days. Oh, yeah. But that's the thing. It's just like, I'm not going to put the guy down for that. He's do I have a chart-topping album? No. Do I have several chart-topping albums? No, but he does, and it works for him, so good for him. Prince was kind of the same thing with keys. He had like his go-to patches that he always used on his keyboards, and you thought that, he sits all day and just finds new patches. No, he goes right to his stock patch, and that's what he used. Yeah. But he's frickin' Prince, and he could do whatever the hell he wanted to do. So let him do his thing, and it's about mutual respect. And I've had people come at me about all sorts of things with my playing or the way a video is sent. Like I keep those up like badges of honor, unless it's something that's like really honestly degrading and demeaning, then I send them out to purgatory. But I had one guy say that Engel should issue a cease and desist letter against me for my playing on one of the pedal videos. And I was like, wow, seek therapy, guy. But it's what it is, and that's fine. Everybody's going to have an opinion. You know what they say about, oh, Dean, hey, there you go. Steve Howe just recorded his latest album on all ADATs. Well, see, there you go. Awesome. He's Steve friggin' Howe. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Because I'm not going to tell the guy what to do. He's a genius. But that's the thing. It's like, just, keep your attitude in check and just be humble. A little humility goes a long way in this business. Right. That, yes, confidence is very important, obviously, but don't think that you have to get your pants custom tailored to hold those cojones. You got to be just, keep it in check and just be humble a little bit, and it goes a long way.
Well, the other thing I think is like people assume, and this is something that I went through, people assume that because you have a specific piece of gear that you only play to a specific level. Right. But really, if you're a consummate player, like if you're a beast on your instrument or whatever your particular craft is, you can rock anything that's brought to you. And so sometimes, like for me, everybody's like, well, why don't you play a Roland AX synth? And I'm like, Roland's great. I'll never speak against Roland, not because I want to be politically correct, but because I genuinely believe that Roland products are wonderful. And I know a lot of the guys over there, and they're great people, and they're really well made, and they take care of their artists. That's great. For me, and I've played the AX synth. I used to have an AX7. But for me, when the Vortex appeared at my front door, it was a personality match. I got it, right? And so this is where I feel most comfortable. I'll give you an example. When I was at Synthplex visiting you last year, the year before, I don't know, all the days are
last
running.
Year.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, wow, that feels like a decade ago. But anyway,
I know. I know.
And I ran into Jeffrey Abbott, who is one of my absolute guitar idols. This guy is otherworldly when it comes to what he does, and he plays guitar on Keytar. Like that's his thing. He's a tremendous. I think his moniker is Keytar Jeff, If you look him up, he's one of just the sweetest, nicest people on earth. And he plays an old Roland AX, and he's got a custom casing around it and stuff. And I asked him one day, I said, would you mind giving me a little bit of tutelage? I'd love to know some of the guitar stuff that he does, especially the acoustic sampling stuff he does is tremendous. And I still hadn't really gotten to that yet. And so we sat on Skype and did a couple of sessions together. And he said, why are you using the Vortex? And he didn't ask it in a judgmental way, right. But he was curious. He's like, why aren't you using a Roland? Right. And I was like, this is why. And I gave him my reason. He goes, oh, okay. And so I showed him what I planned. He goes, yeah. He goes, okay, I could see that works for you. Mm-hmm. You found your freedom of movement with this particular instrument. You wouldn't have that with a Roland or maybe with a Korg or a Yamaha or whatever. Not right. Because they're bad instruments, not because you don't know how to do it, but because for whatever reason, this fits my hand size, it fits my body type, it fits so much about my personality that this is just my choice, right? That's all it is. And so it doesn't make it wrong or right. It's just a personal preference. And I think there's a lot of, right, we've talked about this, where like there's a lot of shows that talk about gear, and they talk about gear in either a very clinical, technical way, where there's right. like no feeling, or they talk about gear in this very feeling way, but it's very judgmental. And there's really not a particular space where you can just not just experiment, but experience all facets of gear. And go through and run the gamut of like, why is this one great? Why is this one not to my preference? It doesn't make it bad, but how would someone else use it, right? So I think this is something that we've been trying to create, and it's a good thing, man.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm playing an old Peavey. Unbeknownst to most people, Peavey made really, really great guitars back in the 80s. And the 70s for that matter. But this was made in I believe either the early 80s or late 80s, early 90s. And the thing that's great about this guitar in particular is that it's a solid maple body. So look, I love Tellys, and this is a Telly style. And would I love to own one of those really expensive Tellys? Sure, I would. But why? If I can get a great sound and I can play and I can identify and I can be a part of music with this, why would I want to just, fork over a lot of extra money? And I guess, that's the thing. It's like just trying to find something different out there. Like I don't, like that pink guitar I play, that's an old Yamaha, SE250. And the thing about the SEs that, only my family would probably know this, but my first guitar was an SE150, all the way back there, a Cast Your Mind back to 1987, and it was a really basic. Before that was kind of like, oh, it's so basic. It was a very basic guitar with one knob and one pickup, but I learned the shit out of guitar on that one guitar. And I stuck with it. In fact, I have an SE150 back here that is custom painted, and it's a piece of art, and it's beautiful. I just haven't put it in any videos yet because, well, I haven't had time. That's the thing. It's like, I don't want to be like the typical guy. You know what it took to buy that Explorer back there for me to shell out the $900 for that Explorer? Because Gibson, let me tell you, I have no problem saying this whatsoever. The Gibson's made a lot of misfires over the years. And to be critical of them as a company, anything made it basically after a certain time. Huh?
I remember who you're talking to, though. I'm a Gibson girl.
Well, I know that, but we can have a difference of opinion. I have a 73 SE150 sitting in the other room. It's a family heirloom. You'll have to pry that from my cold dead fingers to get that away from me. But I wanted an Explorer. And it took a lot of time to find one that I actually liked, because I didn't like any of the ones that had come out in like the last 20 years. Yeah. So I went and I found an early 90s Explorer from a guy down in Orange that set it up properly, and it was beautiful. But that's the thing. It's just like knowing the company and just knowing what they're doing now. I suppose they're making some, good adjustments, but these days it is I think maybe they don't always make the best guitars in the world. They do try to invent, they do try to show innovation, like the robot guitar, like the Surround Les Paul was actually a really good guitar, but they should have had you working for them back then with the marketing. It probably would have been, well, if it was 2020 and Miko working back in 2007, I think is when the guitar came out, it probably would have been a much bigger deal back then because it was a really cool guitar, but they didn't have your tutelage back then, your talents. So they've made a lot of misfires, even though they've tried, but they have also done a few things with the guitar industry that have always just been head scratchers. And I'll say the same thing about Roland too, and Boss. I love Roland and Boss. I have Roland synthesizers. Like my first pedal was a Boss pedal, but they as a dealer, they are the biggest pain in the ass to work with, and that's why we don't work with them at this particular time. I've got a lot of friends there because I worked at Cakewalk for several years, so I was always part of the Boss family. Yeah. I went all over the country doing clinics for Sonar and Project 5 for the 5 people that bought Project 5. So that's what I mean about this being a very small industry and being like a very small town, is that we do bump into each other. But I think it's good though to just, I do have my loyalties on certain things, but I really, what I value more than anything, and I'll just end it at this, is as far as the brands that I choose to endorse and I choose to evangelize and do, because you might wonder, why am I doing so many videos with Nuix? It's not because I work for Nuix, because I don't work for Nuix. They work for me because I sell the products as a dealer. Right. But I have a great partnership with them. And that speaks in volumes. It's the same thing within music. I have a great partnership within music. When I do a video on the Headrush, they push it for me. And that helps perpetuate my business. Not only I get more views, but I get more sales, and it helps. Yeah. And there's plenty of runoff. The Sweetwater customers are going to go buy at Sweetwater. The Guitar Center customers are going to go buy at Guitar Center. But the ones that don't want to buy from them, they'll buy from me because they saw one of my videos. And it's because of that great partnership that I have with these brands. And if I don't have that partnership, then I will sell some of the stuff, but I couldn't care less about it. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about being a bit more of a boutique-y dealer, is that we can do that. I will say this about InMusic though. What I love about them, and it doesn't matter which brand we're talking about, is there is one word that I can use to define them, which is innovation. And they work really hard to innovate. I know, like, they're kind of looked upon as like the guys that just buy every brand under the sun that's not doing well and like bring them in and let's see what we can do with them. But they do that initially, and then what they do is they innovate and they make something that's really groundbreaking. For example, the Vortex there. That's wireless is fantastic. Getting that wireless MIDI to work is amazing. What they've done for the Headrush line this year has been amazing.
The Headrush has been. I saw the new improved one at NAMM, and it just blew me away. And
the firmware.
I was like, so if I get the Headrush and I have the and I was going through this in my head, and oh no, your eyes are fluttering. I can see what's going to happen here. Like, okay, they are great. And InMusic, I mean, the other thing about InMusic is they're real people.
They are real people. I've had some amazingly great relationship time with them on my, not on this, just on this side of things, but on the old days when I was a buyer at that other company. And I'll even say it, some of the products you probably have in your studio, I had something to do with in one way or another. There's a certain red boxed audio interface out there that name came from my office with my assistant at the time. He and I coughed up that name over the phone on just a call with that other company, and that's what you use now. Well, a lot of people do, at least. So if you want to know where that name came from,
look no further.
I'm not saying that I take all the credit at all. They did all the work, and I worked for them for a while, and I'd rather walk barefoot on broken glass these days than go back to that kind of a life. I like working for myself. I'm so very grateful for the fan base and the customer base that keeps coming back to buy stuff from us. But I think this has actually been a really good session, Miko. I think we did some really cool stuff here, because I think we ought to do this even further and maybe do like once a month or once every other month, do like a like a clinic of sorts and just
Yeah,
sit down and let's talk about one product and let's just evangelize the crap out of it.
actually, that's a good thing we can ask the viewers is whether you're watching this live now or whether you see it on the replay later. Is that your Coke Zero?
No, this is now I've now moved to my Waterloo mineral water.
Oh, I was like, is he drinking beer at 1:30 in the afternoon? 'Cause
If I was, I wouldn't be telling you.
if you were, I'm late to the party.
Superman. Yeah.
No, but if for whether you're watching this live now or whether you're watching it later on the replay, if you would like to see Scott and me do something where it's just the two of us talking about stuff, and you have particular topics that you'd like us to cover, please write in and let us know. You can always DM us at Gear You Hear on the Facebook page or whatever native platform you're watching this from. You can always just type in the comment section there as well. And remember to subscribe to the Pedal Guy. Is right there. Subscribe to the Gear You Hear on Facebook. Hit that like button. Subscribe to me, Emiko Music.
Let's not forget about you, because we definitely need to keep subscribing to Emiko, and so she can keep us up to date with all the cool stuff she's doing.
I have to do, actually, with one of our future guests, I have to hop on the phone now with a gentleman who is an amp designer.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be really cool.
Really fun one. Also because, I can't say it publicly, but I'll tell you privately, he is now the steward of a very famous guitar that has resurfaced, which I will not mention. But let's just leave it at that for now. And thank everybody for tuning in and for your questions and for your comments. And we do this every 2 weeks. So next week we're off, but then the week after we'll be back. And I know that one of our forthcoming guests is Steve Aguilar, who is a Hammond artist and a tremendous. When you see his pedal setup, your brain will leak out of your ears. He's just tremendous.
I saw the photo.
Right. So stay tuned for that. We've got a couple of other really great guests coming up. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching.
All right.
And we'll see you next time. If I can, the awkward goodbyes. Thanks, everybody.
Ta-ta.
Bye.